You can pretty much start an online business in anything these days. Well, that's what at least my most recent guest, Sarah Riley, thinks. She has not only just started one business, but she started two online businesses around her passion and her skill set. And today's episode, she shares 6 tips on how to actually build your online business from something that you are passionate about and you want to lead that lifestyle of your dreams. Building an online business to fuel your offline lifestyle is something that I personally am passionate about, and I'd love for you to watch this full interview. Take notes because Sarah drops some great tips here. I'm just going to leave you straight on over into this interview with Sarah Riley. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Sarah Riley. Thank you very much for joining me on the call. Where are you calling in from today?
North Devon, overlooking the beach on the North Devon coast. So a beautiful part of the UK in the southwest. Yes, wow. if no one's ever been there, you definitely should go. It's fantastic.
Wow. That sounds idyllic. I grew up in the southwest, so I go back there regularly, and it's a beautiful part of the world. Thank you very much for your time. I know that time is the only finite commodity we have right now. So thanks for jumping on. The real sort of reason behind this call, I've been wanting to speak to you for a while now, and we actually met in person last week. So I can't say long time no see because we actually were at the same event last week. So and we chatted about everything there. So the aim of this call really is to speak to people who are looking to start an online business or already have started an online business, and they're looking for inspiration, encouragement, tools, tips, anything like that. I'm all about making our lives simple because it can get quite chaotic quite quickly in this online world. Let's just start really with how did you get into the online world? What is your background before your online business, and what sort of made that decision for you to move into the online space?
Thank you, Tim. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's
Pleasure.
Brilliant to be on your show, and a real honor, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
I've been involved in this world for such a long time now. It kind of started a really long time ago, back in 2004, actually.
Wow.
So I don't know if you remember that. That was the time of that terrible tsunami that happened, and it was in India and all kinds of parts of the world around there. 200,000 people lost their lives, which was horrific. And the year afterwards, I was actually given the opportunity through a corporate job that I was doing at that time was to go out there and actually help some of the local communities that had been impacted so badly. And at the time I was doing a corporate job. I'm really lucky. I'd been brought up with a family of entrepreneurs. So I had all kinds of experience in other things, running a shop, running a hospitality business, running retreats, all kinds of things in my past. But at that time I was doing a corporate job. So I heard all kinds of stories when I was out there in India. It was just incredible really to see how they were all rebuilding their lives after such a traumatic time. And one of the stories that I heard, which was the worst story of all, was when we were visiting a little village which was right on the beach, and many of the local people that were closest to the absolute poverty line, they actually lived on the beach, not like us, which is, beach areas are incredibly expensive to live. It's all about tourists. It's all about business and that kind of thing. But in this part of India, it's actually, that's the only place you had to go. And one of the reasons they liked to be there and live there was because that's where they would go fishing. That's where they'd be able to get their food for free. And so we heard these awful stories about how the tsunami, as it was coming, it sucked out all of the water from the bay. So all the local people ran out onto the beach to pick up the fish because they could see all the fish there. And to them, that was their meal, that was their food. And then, of course, we know what happened next, which was the wave came back in and so many people lost their lives. And it was horrific. So the reason that I'm telling this story is I was there firstly helping these people and helping support them. And I was sharing a lot of the knowledge that I had as someone who was working in corporate worlds and in safety worlds and all kinds of other things. And I realized at that moment that it actually wasn't about the adversity, it's how you deal with it that really matters, because all of these people were just incredible. Even though they'd been through such hardship, they didn't think twice about welcoming us into their lives, to work with us, to make things better. And it just kind of was awe-inspiring, really, to experience this. The people that had gone through such terrible times and probably had a lot more terrible times to go. So when I came back, I started questioning, do I really want to be in corporate? Do I really want to be in this cubicle doing the 9 to 5? Do I really want that? Is this what my big dream is all about? Is this really where I can see my future being? And it really started to hit home a little bit about, you know, you only have one life. Why am I doing this? I'm not particularly enjoying it. What should I do? So with that said, I decided that when I came home, I decided that I was going to move to Devon, which is now where I am. I've moved with my then fiance, who is now my husband, and we've got 2 wonderful children. And it kind of got me thinking, okay, how can I fit a business around my life and around my kids, and so that I can be there for them at any time, because I don't want to have to be going to a job, to an office, because back then you couldn't really work from home. It was always about going into the office. It's very, very different now. Showing my age now, of course.
Oh, I'm there as well.
But back then you were just so restricted. It really was cubicle existence. And so I started thinking about, okay, how could I develop an idea, come up with something that I could do maybe online? I knew online was the way forward, but didn't really know what to do. I hadn't really considered being a solopreneur. I'd been an employee up until that point. I'd worked for my family in, you know, what they were doing and their businesses. So it was, you know, I had all that background, I had all that knowledge, but I just wasn't quite ready to be pushed to go to the next stage. And actually, it's really funny when you're at that stage of almost jumping.
Yeah.
And then life comes along, gives you a big shove. So what happened was, after I'd had my second baby, I had a major stroke, which was caused by a neck injury. And the neck injury caused a clot, and that went to my brain. I had a major stroke. So that was in 2009. And so definitely after that, I was like, okay, I just cannot go back to corporate. I cannot, you know, look after my family and repair my brain and everything else. So I was offered a voluntary redundancy, which I accepted, and then pretty much found myself, right, okay, I now need to do something. I need to figure out what it is and do it. So one of the things I did was to look at my past and the skills that I had already in my life, but to focus on it from an angle of, what do I love about my past? What did I do that I really enjoyed, that I absolutely adored getting into, you know, the daily. So to me, it wasn't work. It was literally fun. And how could I turn that into a business? How could I turn that into an income? So I started thinking about so many things. I actually took myself away for the day, and I was, you know, away from screaming babies, away from distractions at home. And my husband was amazing, so supportive. I went away and I'm right, okay, I need to think about this. And I started at that time, I actually had a camper van, and we used to love going, you know, in the camper van everywhere. And I started thinking, why can I not make this a business? You know, I love camping. I love being there with my family. Can I make this a business? You know, that was the question. And I believe now that you can make anything a business. It's about thinking about what you love and how you can turn it into the business, and getting some help to think that through and to maybe put some angles on that, because often we get caught in a funnel of thinking and we go down one route when actually we should be going down another one. So I didn't actually have an expert to support me and help me. So I started thinking about it completely off the top of my head. So it took me a lot longer to kind of get to grips with it. But when I did finally get to grips with it, I started realizing that there was this new way of going camping, this new idea. And I'd already, before I'd had my illness, I'd started thinking to myself, I really wanted to do something to do with hospitality. I loved the hospitality business I'd been brought up in. And I had started outlining an idea of a different kind of stay. And I won't talk about it too much because that still people haven't quite done that yet. So it's still like, that's a secret thing I'm keeping to myself for the future, maybe, if I decide to do it. But I had started to design this kind of unique hospitality stay, that it was set around the idea of festivals, around being outside in the open air in a different kind of structure with a different level of service. And it was very much more along the lines of glamorous camping, which, as we know, is now called glamping. So were you
the pioneer of that phrase, glamping?
No, it was not me, sadly. I have no idea where it came from originally, but I've been using it since 2010 online.
Amazing.
So pretty much that's when I set up my business in 2010. And it was around the idea of glamping. If you wanted to set up a unique hospitality business, benefit from my knowledge of having run a hospitality business, which was a beautiful boutique hospitality business in the middle of Somerset, in an old gentleman's residence, which is a really big property. And we had some beautiful land out the back, which is where we ran festivals, and we did all kinds of other bits and pieces. And so that really was, I realized that I was just sharing that same exact knowledge for people, but with a different take, a different look.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got into the whole glamping.
Wow.
So since then, I mean, that business is brilliant. And I was advising people on a one-to-one level. I was giving, I put together some courses so people could, in a very low cost way, could understand how it all works and how to fit all the pieces together and all that kind of stuff. So then I started realizing in recent years, there's so many benefits to running retreats, which is also something we did, because it can be factored into somebody's funnel. It's a fantastic way of really bonding with people. So bonding with those people who potentially could become your customers. You interact with and bond with people on another level when you're running retreats, because you're all there for a shared purpose. You all have these amazing experiences. And at the end of the retreat, it was always the case that people wanted more when they left. They either wanted to keep in touch with the community of people that they met there, or they wanted to keep in touch with the expert who had run the event. So that's now where I am. So I'm actually now helping people both set up their actual unique hospitality in glamping, in all kinds of other unique structures, tree houses, small, lovely little cabins, that kind of thing. But I also help people understand how they could run retreats. And where the magic happens is when I've got someone with all these facilities for glamping, and then they decide to run retreats, and then they become a retreat center. Amazing. So the reason that works so well is because hospitality businesses, they inevitably have these downtimes, quiet times, out of season, off peak, midweek times when people are in work, they can't go on holiday. So they're pretty much empty. And that's where retreats can really come in to fill up the beds in those down times. So it was about me identifying the opportunities and then putting the pieces together like a puzzle, you could say. Yeah. So that's really how it all started. It's been a pretty crazy ride ever since. But yeah, since 2010, I've been going. Nuts.
Wow. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Thank you for sharing all those stories. Especially the first ones. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? I don't think anyone wanted to say, "Oh, I want to be a business owner. I want to be an online business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur." I never wanted to be a business owner when I was growing up. I joined the military for 16 years. But it's funny how these things just happen, and like one key is opening another door, and you sort of, that is how your journey starts. Few things that really resonated with me there. You're talking about lifestyle. You were just sort of using what you know and loved, and it was like the type of lifestyle business that you were building that worked for you. And I really think that no matter who I speak to, I think the business has to work for the individual. If you're just trying to do something to make a quick buck or make money, you'll soon fall out of love with what you're doing. So I think really it's sort of key to what you believe in and what you want to help people with. And typically it's what we have experience in, right? And it's, I refer to the Japanese ikigai, reason for being. It's like what you know, what you're good at, what you can make money with. And the fourth one is really, does the world need it? Like, are people wanting more of this? So that's where I typically start. But yeah, we live in a good time, don't we? This is like 15 years ago, I probably wouldn't be able to do the things like the technology allows us to do. It was just after you. So I was 2012 when I started my first online business, because of the technology caught up, and it was like, hey, you can do this online business thing with a laptop and an internet connection, and that's it. I mean, when I first started looking for my first job, there wasn't anything like that available. So we live in a good time. You mentioned stuff like funnels, you mentioned courses and everything. So if someone was just starting out, like didn't know where to start or even the opportunity available, like how did you sort of find out for yourself? Was it trial and error? Did you invest in courses, coaching? What was your sort of technical steps to actually make the online business a thing?
Again, it's quite interesting. I've actually got 6 tips I want to share with you and your listeners, watchers today.
Yeah.
And one of them really starts from a place that you might find quite surprising. So the way that I started thinking about it was I removed all fear from questioning, could I actually make this work? Is this something that I could actually do? And I started thinking to myself, I'm not even going to measure that. I'm not even going to worry about whether I'll be able to make that work. I'll do some testing later down the line. What I want to do first is just kind of let myself go free. And it's because of my stroke, I've learned a lot about how the brain works. And one of the things that it does do is it tries to keep us safe all the time. It's working really hard to keep us in that place of equilibrium where there's no fear. There's no tiger outside of the cave. We're in the cave, safe and sound, with our meal, with our fire, warm, able to sleep, all of those things. That's what the brain, the prehistoric brain, the limbic part of your brain wants to do for you. So every single time we all step out of our comfort zone, it's like we're fighting against every part of that to stay in that lovely, comfortable cave. So it was about trying to understand that actually, if I was feeling that level of discomfort, if my limbic system was starting to kick in, that's a good thing, because that means I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. And that means that that's where the most growth is going to happen, because we do not grow when we stay in our cave, nice and warm, comfortable. We have to step out of the cave. So that was the first thing, that kind of understanding that's how the brain works. And that was a good thing to feel that level of kind of unease and discomfort. And then I started testing ideas. So I had a small social media channel. Obviously, there's a way that you have to word it in terms of what you're testing and how you're testing it. You don't say things like, I'm thinking of doing this product. Would you like to buy it? You know, you don't do anything like that. You just kind of, you get this idea that you've got. You tailor it into a really short sentence and you say, hey, I'm thinking of sharing this thing, totally free, no catch. But what are your thoughts? Would you like a copy, or would you like to know something about it? And then you literally just measure the response. You measure how many people come back in touch with you and say, yes, please, that's what I want. Now, if you don't get that good response, you have to do a little bit of analysis. You have to understand, now, is it because I didn't actually tailor that invitation properly? Did I not title it well so people didn't understand what I was talking about? You know, maybe that was part of the mechanics that went wrong. Or maybe people just don't like it. So you have to do a little bit more testing and refining. But then that, if you get a good response, what that's telling you is you've actually hit a really amazing thing that people want and potentially need. Then you just do a little bit more testing. So this is something that I do with my retreat clients. So if they are thinking of putting together a retreat for whatever reason, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of time and effort. They want to do it. They're driven to do it. They're passionate about sharing the thing that they're passionate about and to help people really enjoy transformations. But they're afraid as well. Obviously, that's the prehistoric brain kicking in, but they are afraid of putting all this effort into something that they're not going to get any return on. So by this really simple technique of testing, you can do anything. You can figure out an idea for a business. You can figure out an idea for a course or an ebook or anything. That's all you need to do. The other way that I've heard people are doing it, which is quite interesting, is to use a crowdfunding platform. And there's quite a lot more involved in this. So this could be like a second stage to the one I've just talked about, which is really simple. It's just a message. But crowdfunding is, and many big businesses do this, they share their product or their service on the crowdfunding platform and say it's only available on the crowdfunding platform. Would they like it? And then they see what the response is. It's often using the reward-based crowdfunding projects. And then if they get a lot of people diving in and saying yes, buying it and getting the rewards, whatever the rewards are, which are obviously to do with testing their product or service, then they know they've hit the nail on the head and they're definitely in the right ballpark for doing it. Yeah. So they're testing it. And it's incredible that we don't know this is going on. And as solopreneurs, we need to use these techniques as well. They're tools. They're tools that we can use. Absolutely. So I would say if anybody's thinking of making a big change and they're feeling a bit wary about where they should go next, then they should definitely test it with the various platforms they've probably already got on social media, on YouTube. And if they don't have any of those, then maybe they need to speak to people like you who have a platform and say, can I just come on and talk about my idea and see what the response is? So, this is one of the things that I encourage people to do because it can really open up doors for sure.
That's key. Yeah. I think testing something small before you go all out. I've seen so many people like spend days, weeks, months, like building a program and they're going, here it is. And then everyone's like, that's not really what I was after. So testing small is huge. I mean, it's something that I advise to do. Yeah. But carry on with your tips.
Okay. So my next tip is about, and this is what we did this, when we went to London and saw each other in London, is, be careful of your environment. So I don't know if you've heard of Professor Lipton. So Professor Lipton, he's all about epigenetics. He's the one that basically the scientist that had, he put some cells into a petri dish and grew them, two separate, petri dishes, the same cells. And then he put a different set of environmental conditions on those two petri dishes. And so what he found was that he was able to grow something different in those petri dishes depending on the environment that they were in. So essentially it says, and it has been proved since, we are all susceptible to epigenetics, which is the impact of our environment on us and how we grow and how we develop and how we become successful or not. So I think it's to say, be careful who you hang out with. Be careful who you choose as to being your business buddies. It's different, obviously family's different. Yeah. But if you're in a situation like me who has wonderful friends and family, but none of them really get what I do, none of them really understand the whole tools, methods, ideas, inspiration, all of that stuff. So I make a real effort, because it is a real effort, because I have to go a long way always, because I live in the darkest, deepest part of the southwest of England. I have to make an effort to go and see people, and people who are on the same wavelength as me. They're positive, they're inspiring, they've got amazing stories. I can be inspired by what they share, and I can say things to them like, how do you overcome this problem? What have you used for this tool? And, things that I've learned just from this last weekend, I implemented straight away, and I've had no end of benefit as a result. And that's just in a few short days. So just by hanging out with different people in your environment. So I would absolutely say that's what you need to do. If anyone is struggling, it might just be you're hanging out with the wrong people in the wrong place.
Yeah, so powerful. Looking back, I can see a number of times in my life where I was like, okay, I think I need to make a change here. Yeah. And it's always paid off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So my next tip will be about the why. So why do you want to do this thing? So for me, of course, I know what my story was, and I know why I started thinking along the lines that I did, but I didn't really know my why, my crafting my why. And with all of these things, we all know this, don't we? People say, you've got to know your why, you've got to do this process and follow this system. And that's fine. But how do you actually apply that system to your own story and your own thing that you want to do? So that's what I find people really struggle with the most is, how can I make this mine? How can I make this something that is true to me? So I started really thinking about that from my own situation. And I realized it's because I believe everyone deserves to make a living doing something that they love, whether that's running a unique hospitality business or whether that's running retreats. That's what I specialize in. But I also obviously specialize in lifestyle business because I'm a lifestyle business entrepreneur. I fit my business around my life because I don't want to, I want my family to come first and my business to come second. Ultimately, I don't want it to be the other way around. So, knowing your why is really important. And so for me as well, the whole ripple effect was very important. I don't know if you've heard the ripple effect. So it's if you throw a stone in a pond and you get the ripples going out, and the ripples obviously get bigger and bigger, and it affects more of the bank around the pond. The whole idea is that when you are affecting one person, which is that first ripple, that ripples out and that impacts lots of other people. So putting it in context of retreats, I help one person understand how they can make money from their retreats. And then what happens next is they run their retreat and these people are there having these amazing kind of eureka moments and transformations. Maybe they're struggling with health. Maybe they're at a pet training retreat and they've been struggling for years with their dog just barking and annoying the neighbors, and they potentially could lose their flat. There's so many things that the ripple effect will go out and it will impact these people in a positive way. And it's just from my help with that one individual who has been able to then set up these events and help these other people. So it's like the ripple effect. So for me, that was so, so important. And that's what drives me, I think, every day through the good and the bad and the tax bills that we were talking about earlier and all that kind of stuff. It's about saying, I'm doing this for a bigger purpose. It's bigger than money. It's bigger than anything. So for me, the two is obviously that I'm running a lifestyle business that fits my family's needs, but also that I'm helping people with this ripple effect. Because, and even so with the glamping, the fact that someone can go glamping, a customer who goes glamping will potentially fall in love with nature more by going glamping. And if you get people to fall in love with nature, they're much more likely to become an environmental advocate in the future, to look after the earth and the world. And if they've got kids that go too, then they will also want to give their kids in the future the same kind of experience. And then hopefully that ripple effect will go on and there'll be more kind of nature lovers being born. And so for me, that's my why, that's the core reason, that's the foundation. And so the tool for anyone listening is really dive into not just surface level why, but really deeply your why, about why you want to do it. And it has to be way more than money. Can't just be money. Money is a great energy and it's definitely there to help motivate us because we all have bills to pay. But it's got to be more than just the energy of money. It's got to be something more. So if you haven't got it in the bag, you've got to do that. That would be my other tip.
That resonates with me so much. Like you're speaking my language, definitely. Solopreneur, micro business owner, like lifestyle. That's what I'm on this planet for now. It's like, you might have had an experience throughout life, and you're thinking, right, okay, we only live once. This is our only life that we know of. How can I make this the best life possible? So we don't go on holiday anymore. Myself and my partner, we just call it Awesome Life. So we just try and design this life around what we want to do, and the business is the online business is the enabler. It's money is an enabler. It's not. We don't do this for the money. We do this for the lifestyle. So everything you said there just resonated with me. So yeah. My ears perked up.
Well, I think it's fantastic. You and Becky have really got it right. You understand that you want to live life and love life, and so you are fitting your business around that rather than your life around your business. And so many people need to do that, because actually what the world needs is more people who love their life and who really dig what they're doing. That's what we need, more people like that, because they'll be the happy people, they'll be the inspired people, they'll be the people thinking outside of the box. Those are the people that we need in the world. And there is only one life, and oh my goodness, it'd be such a shame not to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly. What number are we on? Was that number 4?
So this is number 4.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this. It's quite an interesting method. Some people don't necessarily go with it, but bear with me.
Yeah.
It's called the mind movie method. And I cannot even remember. I think it's Joe Dispenza or someone like that who actually came up with the idea. So what you do is you watch something which is only a couple of minutes long in the morning and in the evening. So lots of people say to you, oh, do a journal, do a gratitude thing. And that's great. But so many of us get to that point and we're tired and we can't think of what we're grateful for, and I do think it's a really valuable exercise, don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's easier just to watch something, because that's the way we're kind of, life is becoming that, isn't it? We just consume. So I've shared one of these on my YouTube channel so people can understand how it works. So what happens is you start it off, and you can make your own, but I've given people one around success and that kind of thing, success in life and happiness. So it starts with a kaleidoscope. So you stare at the center of it, you're watching it, it's like a YouTube movie, video, and the kaleidoscope kind of gets your brain into a place where you are in a subconscious level. And then what it does is it delivers a set number of positive images, moving images, and positive kind of mantras or, verbal written things, so statements. And then at the end, you have a kaleidoscope again. So that closes the loop for your brain. So again, as soon as I heard that this was a method and that it worked, I was interested because of the whole brain aspect thing, because I'm interested in the brain, and it does work. So you get into the zone, you have all these positive affirmations delivered to you, and then you get into the zone. And then it kind of closes that whole loop. So it takes a couple of minutes, and I have definitely felt more positive doing it. Now, my YouTube channel is really not very old at all. And probably every one of the viewings that has been on that movie is probably me. Because I watch it twice a day.
Great.
So it's, definitely have a go. It's a really, and there's various others as well online, but go and have a look at mine. And mine's on at Midlife Tonic, which is where you will find it on YouTube.
I'll link that up to the notes to this. Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic.
I'll have a go as well.
Yeah, you kind of got to go with it, and you've got to kind of go, okay, I know Sarah might be a bit crazy, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to try this. So give it a go. It'll make you feel happier anyway.
Yeah.
So tip 5. So which is the last, only got 6. So this is almost last. So again, based on my learnings of how the brain works, you have to think about being vulnerable and sharing your story. Because if you are vulnerable and you open up and you share your story, people will connect with you more. That's for a start. But mainly the way the brain works is that it remembers stories rather than facts. So if someone is watching this and say in a year's time, they think to themselves, oh, who is that person that Tim was interviewing? And then they might go, that was the glamping lady. Maybe her name was Sarah, maybe. She had a stroke and blah, blah, blah. You can put that into Google and you can find me. It's, so that's really good. People understand, they connect through story, but they also remember through story. So if you have a business and your story is key to that business, people are going to remember you. And I have another example. So there was a way back when, it was probably 2011, something like that. So after I just got started, I had a client, and they were a glamping site, and they did all kinds of things, including festival weddings and stuff like that. So the story behind their business, it was called Billy One Horn. So when you hear Billy One Horn, you're like, what? That makes no sense. What is that about? I'll never remember it. But then they would always share the story. And the story is that they had this goat who was a family goat, loved the goat, and he only had one horn. And this goat would go around and greet all the guests and, you know, get in trouble and start eating tents and all kinds of stuff. So they called themselves Billy One Horn. And as a result, if you just thought to yourself, oh, I fancy going on holiday, where could I go? Oh, I know what, I'll go and visit Billy One Horn. Or maybe I could do that festival or party that I was going to do at Billy One Horn. So I think the business is now since closed down. It's a very long time ago. They were operating, I think, for a decade, something like that. So I mean, this is how much time has gone by. I still remember the name, you know.
Yeah.
It's just insane. So if you can share a story, especially if you can share a story around your business, your why or something, then people will remember you. And I think that's really key. And so that's
people are going to remember that story.
The Billy One Horn, absolutely. Yeah. And Glamping Sarah, probably.
Yeah.
So my final tip will be, it is more about systems. So I love what you shared, which is systems, which stands for saves you stress, time, energy, and money. I love that. Brilliant. I may use it and I'll give you credit. I promise.
It's not mine.
Oh, is it not? Okay.
I found it.
Well,
I'm using it.
You'll use it. I might use it too.
Yeah, do it.
So one of the things that I've found, I don't own this, is KISS. I don't know if you know about KISS. So keep it simple, sweetie. So there's another word for sweetie. So keep it simple, sweetie. And I think that's really important, especially when this is my last tool tip, really, which is around the power and impact of funnels in your business. And you can literally build a business overnight if you put a funnel in place. And I don't mean one of these really crappy funnels that literally are funneling you in to take your money. I mean, that's not good. You can do a funnel to build yourself an email list really, really quickly. So when I pivoted a little bit from, well, not from glamping to retreats, but to add retreats to my portfolio of services, what happened was I didn't actually have any specific people that were only interested in retreats. I had lots of glamping clients who may want to put some retreats on their business as an additional service. But so I had to build a new email list really quickly. And I did that by putting together a funnel. And so the funnel is just so simple if you get it right. So obviously, if you're if you're giving or taking an email, you want to be providing something amazing and worthwhile for free. And it could be anything, but one of the things that I chose was some information. So I provided a retreat calculator. So this is so people could use it to understand if they could make money through retreats and what that might look like and how their business might actually look like on a structural basis.
Yeah.
And how much money they could potentially earn from that. So I put together a calculator and I provided some training on how it works. And it was the only paywall that was there was people had to pay with their email. And so I went from, in a month and a half, I managed to build my email list from nothing to 1,000 plus people.
Wow.
So
well done.
this, I didn't do it naturally and organically, I have to say. I did pay for some ads, but because I also added in there a opportunity for people to buy at a very, very low cost, everything I talked about in that training. So all the tools I shared in that training, people could just buy and then have it immediately. And so that, even though it was really small, so I think it was seven Great British pounds I was asking for to have all of those. So it's a small amount of money. That small amount of money managed to pay for the ads. So I wasn't making a profit, but I wasn't spending any money overall when you looked at the profit and loss.
Yeah.
So I would say that if anybody is thinking about doing something new, this is a great way to, after you've tested it, of course, you test it first, check that people are interested. And if they are, then you start building an email list. I would start from there. And then the next step would be obviously to then think about what you're going to be offering those people that will make their life better in terms of what you can provide. So that I know is, friends of ours are talking about a simple funnel. But I didn't actually realize I was already doing a simple funnel. And sometimes we can get really caught up in ourselves, can't we? And we try and overcomplicate everything. And
100%.
I definitely do that at times. So I do have to be reminded. So when we went away at that event last weekend, I just had to be reminded that, Sarah, keep it simple. And so that's what I advise everyone else to do. That's my kind of tip. Keep it simple, sweetie. But definitely focus on the funnel.
100%. That's awesome. Great advice. I mean, I'll list these six steps up, but I mean, if anyone was thinking, oh, what is a funnel? It is literally just, you're giving, like, people pay with their email address, right? And if you're giving away something that is of value, that they perceive of value, then, and you have tested it, like, you know that you've got an idea that people are interested in this, then that's a very simple way of generating an email list. And I think people do tend to complexify or whatever. But if you simplify everything, it just gets a lot easier for you and for the people like looking in and saying, right, what does this individual offer? Okay, let's go with this. But yeah, so did you want to just go over those 6 tips just very quickly?
Absolutely.
Just to go for it.
So number 1 is all about kind of brain health and the power of the mind, and understanding that if you're feeling uncomfortable, step out of your comfort zone, because that's where the most growth happens. Number 2, be careful who you are hanging out with. Make sure that you've got a good environment to really help you flourish and blossom and bloom in what you're doing. Number 3, know your why in the deepest possible way. And I talked about my own, which was the ripple effect and helping people help others.
Yep.
And it's not about money. So make sure it's not just about money. Number 4 is making sure that you've got some really positive influences, like a mind movie method, and go and check mine out if you don't have one that you can use yourself. Number 5 is share your story, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because that's how people connect properly and deeply. And number 6 is keep it simple, sweetie, and make sure that you think about funnels, because funnels really work. And I'll just add a very small tip there. A funnel literally can be, you could set up yourself a Facebook group, make it only accessible to, so it's closed group, only accessible to people who will share their email address. And you could say, if you want to get your hands on this thing that I've created, all you have to do is sign up to this Facebook group, share your email address, and I'll send it over to you. That's the simplest funnel. Then you've got all their emails, plus you've got them in a Facebook group. You can do some lives and start communicating with them straight away. It's really simple.
So simple. Is it just you in your business at the moment? Are you still a solopreneur? Barring any like tax accounts and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, myself too. And I do chat to people, and the most simple business model is one person business model. And if you can keep everything else simple, and try and serve people in that way by leveraging technology and recording and automating, then I think that's just the simplest business model out there. I always get to a stage where I'm like, oh, do I need to make my first hire? And I think to myself, oh, how can I make it even simpler? And usually I'll be like, well, do I need to do this thing? Well, actually, that's not essential. This thing is, and I can automate that or record it like this. Hopefully this video will go on and help people long after we've finished speaking. So that's another way of just recording and getting a message out there. Amazing tips. Thank you so much for sharing those. What last words of wisdom would you have if someone is watching this, getting some awesome value from your 6 tips? What would you say to them if they haven't even started, or they kind of have this idea of, hey, I think I need to do an online business because it's what my passion is. It's what sort of drives me. but just don't know where to start, or have started and they're all over the place, a little bit messy, and how to sort of streamline. What sort of words of wisdom would you leave with them?
Well, very often we get tied up in knots with all these things that we think we should be doing. And sometimes we just need to remove ourselves from our office, from all of the notes everywhere and everything we say we should do. And we just need to remove ourselves from that and take a higher level view of exactly what we need to be doing today to have that impact. So I would say take yourself away from your environment, really think simply. So simplify it all, and then take one thing that your future self will thank you for and do that. And if you haven't already got an email list, maybe that's where you should start.
Love it. That's amazing. Some great advice. Thanks, Sarah. If people want to reach out to you, where's the best place for them to find you in the online world?
Well, if it's on YouTube, then that's at Midlife Tonic. If you want to see my business site, then that's over at inspiredcourses.com. But if you are thinking about retreats and you figure, actually, I might just dip my toe into some of this training that Sarah's been talking about, you can have access to my free training completely and utterly. And you can find that over at inspiredcourses.com/retreat-freebie. Or I will
link that up.
Or you can shorten it, inspiredcourses.com/RS for short.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I'll be linking those up to the notes so people can just click on that if they're watching online.
Wonderful.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your words of wisdom, and no doubt we will bump into each other in another live event very soon, I guess.
I hope so, Tim. It's been great chatting with you today, and really, really hope that I know that your audience will find you and what you do very valuable. I hope someone takes a little tip that I shared today and implements it, because that's the key.
Me too,
It's getting it done,
taking action. Yeah. Amazing. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'll speak to you soon. So there we have it. Hopefully you have found some value in this interview with Sarah, and you've made some good notes on those 6 tips that she shares for any online business owner. Now, please feel free, if any of that's resonated with you, reach out to Sarah. I will link up some of her sites in the notes to this video. But as always, if you are still thinking, I have no idea where to start, I have something for you. I have a free workshop. It's an on-demand workshop. You can get instant access today by heading over to timpeakman.com/workshop. It will tell you the 3 main core principles or fundamentals that I would do if I hit the reset button tomorrow, what I would do to try and make my first $1,000 of online revenue. So that link once more, timpeakman.com/workshop. And I look forward to seeing you again on another video soon.